Alexa, may the fourth be with you.
And may the force be with you, always.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Voice Coffee Break. I'm your host, James Poulter, CEO and co-founder over at Vixen Labs and part of the Voice Masters voice team. And happy May the 4th, happy Star Wars Day, whatever it is that we're calling this thing. And welcome back to another episode. In today's show, I'm going to be taking you through a little bit more data that just came out last week from the NPR Smart Audio Report. We're going to look at a few of the things that Alexa can do when it comes to Star Wars and Star Wars Day. So we're going to be doing that as well. And if you are watching and you are in the comments, then please do leave a comment or a reaction below so I know who's here if you're watching live. And if you're watching on the replay, then I hope this gets to you and you enjoy it as well. So last week, the NPR Smart Audio Report was published, which is the second of the kind of big reports that came out last week. We had Brett Kinsella's VoiceBot.ai report on smart speaker usage come out earlier in the week last week. And we've got a video on some of that. So you can go look at last week's episode of Voice Coffee Break to go and find some more information about the stats that came out there showing a big growth in the market, as well as also Amazon leading. And the NPR report, which is led by the team at NPR and Edison Research, came out last week. We did a Research Friday with the Voice Masters team last week on that, so you can go look at it in depth. There's a half-hour stream up on the Voice Masters Facebook page if you want to go watch that again, and we'll be putting some clips on the Voice Masters and Vixen Labs YouTube channels, so stay tuned for that. Today, I want to dive into some of the stats we didn't get to in that, which is to look at usage of voice outside of the home and how it might relate to different use cases. But before, I thought we would do a little bit of fun stuff and play around with some of the stuff that Alexa can do when it comes to Star Wars. And I think that, that seems like the right thing to do on a day like today. So let me see if I can get my camera going over here. So let's try something else out. Alexa, who shot first? Oh, okay. That might be controversial for some of you. Han shot first, apparently. Let's see if that was the result. Is that what you were expecting? Han shot first? Not for me. Okay, let me try and see if we can get another one going over here. What about Alexa? Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord. Hold on. I'm not a clone trooper.
Not so good. Okay, well, at least we got those things out of the way. So thanks for entertaining me. Voice Coffee Break coming to you this afternoon from London. If you're tuned in live somewhere else around the world, then do let me know where you're tuned in from in the comments or the chat below. Look forward to chatting more with you as the rest of our day goes on. And I want to bring in this bit more research that we talked about earlier on from the Smart Audio Report from NPR. Over the past week, we've been looking at the data that came out on the webinar that was released by the NPR and Edison Research team on Thursday, and it showed some really interesting new stats about what is happening in the voice space. So I thought I'd share some of that with you. And I think particularly this was most revealing is that they had a number of pieces of research in here around people who are not voice users. And what are they looking for when it comes to having voice technology? And you'll see here that smart speakers don't really factor on the whole layout. We're talking about people looking for smart speakers potentially in their car, on their phone, television, home appliances, and kind of the list goes down. And that is one of the things that we're looking at when people ask how are they using voice commands. It's not necessarily just about where they are in out and about, but if they're doing it in the home, what does it look like to be doing this in outside of the home as well? So that's what I wanted to focus on a little bit today. When you ask people whether or not they are not smart speaker owners, whether they're likely to buy something, buy a new smart speaker device in the next 6 months or so, they say very likely or somewhat likely. But if you look at those who already use voice commands when they're out and about, that increases really sharply to over 50% of people. So people are using their smart speakers, they're using their smartphones for their voice assistant, and they're trying this out, and you can find a lot of this report data if you go register for it over at the Smart Audio Report website. But I think what's really fascinating is that 46%, here you go, of smart speaker owners who own a smartphone, so that they're using that voice-operated personal assistant on their smartphone more since they got a smart speaker. So if they've got a smart speaker, they're actually using this more now than they were before. And I wonder if that chimes true for you. If you've got a smart speaker, do you find that you're talking to Siri more, maybe on your iPhone? Are you talking to Google Assistant more when you are out and about, maybe using it out, well, when we're allowed to get out, when you're out and about, maybe doing the daily shopping, or if you're out on your daily exercise, are you using smart headphones? Are you using a smart speaker more when you're on the go? Because it seems that for those people that do have a smart speaker already, they're using it more and more. And that when you then ask them, okay, well, where are you thinking about having that? Then they're beginning to mostly look at the kind of out-of-home use cases, which I think is really fascinating. Is that when we start to use these devices, we often talk about the smart speaker as a bit of a kind of gateway drug of the smart assistant world, because it's really cheap, really easy to get into the home. People get used to using it. And then all of a sudden it becomes something that you can actually use in lots of other different contexts. You get used to talking out loud to a computing device to get things done. And then very quickly you begin to see that people want to use it outside of the home. And as these stats suggest, that is becoming more commonplace. So is that something that chimes well for you? Are you seeing this usage already? If so, maybe put a comment in the chat box if you're watching live on Facebook, or leave a comment below on YouTube or LinkedIn, and we'd love to get your thoughts going and get a discussion going around that. So this data was particularly fascinating as we kind of got into it. And we then began to look at what are people doing with these voice commands? What is it that they are actually listening to, and what are they trying to do? And the first bit of data that I think is really important for those people that are thinking about smart speakers in their marketing approach is this piece, is around how do you discover new skills or actions that people can do? And a lot of this is still trial and error and recommendations from friends. And I think that just goes to speak to the fact that the market has not actually evolved as much as we thought it was going to in terms of marketing last year. We're still very much reliant upon either the platforms sharing content with us, like from the emails that you get from Alexa, or updates that you get from Google Assistant, or potentially even the smart speaker is kind of suggesting stuff to you itself by the device. These things are the things that kind of drive us to use these things more. But as you can see here, people are beginning to get more and more content by getting emails from those devices, but they're also beginning to search in the smart speaker app. They're beginning to kind of get recommendations there, and we're beginning at very low levels. And I think when I say very low, it's too low, folks. It's really too low. It is the amount of companies that are advertising that they have smart speaker skills. And this seems weird to me, right? Is that, how did you find out about the fact that maybe a Facebook page existed for a company or a brand that you're interested in? How did you know that they had an app on iOS or Android? Most likely, it was the company telling you that it existed. They were using their CRM, they were using their social media, they were using other direct forms of marketing or advertising to let you know that an app actually existed or a social media presence actually existed. Where is this happening in the smart speaker market? For time and time again, when we get into the problem of discoverability, we often end up back at this point of people don't know what they can do with these devices. They don't know that they can ask, kind of as we've just demonstrated, they can ask Alexa to do funny things around Star Wars. And the reason that they don't know is because people aren't telling them. And we need to get the marketing kind of going much more strongly here. We need people to be actually sharing what these companies do. And because we know that there are lots and lots of smart speaker apps out there from major brands, all you got to do, let's go and do this together. Let's see if I can get this working. All you got to do is go jump over to the Alexa store, and you're going to find very quickly that there are plenty of Alexa skills that are coming from major brands and businesses from all over the world, and they are being just poorly promoted. They're just not being pushed, and I worry that this is stuff that wasn't kind of shared with people properly. Is that, well, why wasn't this happening? Why are we not sharing out that these devices have this capability? So let's just ping over here and I'll show you exactly what I mean. when it comes to sharing content with your smart speaker, it's pretty important that actually we promote these things just as much in terms of what we put into building them. People often ask, well, when they're coming to us, how much money should I be putting behind promoting my Alexa skill? And I think that it's a fair question to ask, but one of the big things is, well, how much money are you putting into promoting it, not just how much are you putting into building it. And I think if we just jump over here onto the Alexa skills store, let's just go kind of see kind of what brands maybe pop up and what ones do we recognize here. So let's have a go with this. So here we are in the in the Alexa store, and a whole bunch of different skills that are out there. I wonder, when it comes to these skills, how many of these that come from, when you see ones on here that come from brands or organizations, how do you know that these exist? How have you found out about these skills? Like here's an example, like This Day in History from the History Channel. How did you know that that existed? How did you know that you could kind of get Uber or Fitbit over on your Alexa device? Was it from the marketing and advertising that came from these companies? I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and say probably not. You relied upon one of the platforms to tell you about it, or you just discovered it by word of mouth, as we're seeing from this data coming from NPR. So why is that? And I think that the reason that it's such a problem is that we just aren't putting the right amount of money and kind of real backing behind marketing these things properly. It is just sorely lacking, and that, again, that's reflected in this data. And so when you begin to look at what kind of people are trying to do with these devices and what they're doing with their skills and actions, very quickly you find that when people say that they're completing a task on their smartphone through the assistant, they're completing quite different tasks from what they might do on a smart speaker. So remember that if you're trying to build a use case for what people are going to do with these devices, remember that if you're building for platforms, particularly like the Google Assistant, which are not necessarily experienced in the same way across many different devices, that you might be able to find different use cases for voice out of the home as you can inside the home. It's not a uniform platform. Voice works in a different way when you get out onto a smart speaker with a display than one that doesn't. When you're out on your phone, maybe in a store where you maybe have Wi-Fi, or maybe bad reception, you're going to get different experiences, and people are in different mindsets. They're looking for different things in these different contexts, and particularly now when in a touch-free interface in a place where we don't necessarily want to be having direct contact with surfaces and screens out of the home, or maybe when we're trying to buy a train ticket or trying to get something done in the bank, or you're in a store trying to check out. These are places where previously we've been very, very common for us to go tap a bunch of screens. We don't want to do that now. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity that lies within these use cases when it comes to outside the home. So that's what I wanted to share on this. That's what I wanted to share on this episode of Voice Copy Break around the data coming out of NPR. If you want to find out more about this, is this interesting? Do you want to get more into this data? Leave a comment here on Facebook if you're watching the stream either live or after the fact. The same if you go find this video on YouTube or LinkedIn. Let me know if this was helpful for you and what data you want us to interrogate in the future. And if you want to come on and discuss your questions or voice use cases, then drop a comment below or send me a DM, and I'll get you on an episode of the show in the next few weeks. Hope you enjoyed this little coffee break to talk about voice tech with me, James Poulter. If you would like this video, wherever you're finding it, maybe share it with your colleagues and friends. That would do us a load of good. I'm trying to get approved for LinkedIn Live right now, so if you're watching this on LinkedIn, please share the video. That always helps. And if you've got questions or comments, drop them in the comments below, and I'll happily follow up with you during the course of the week. All right, happy Star Wars Day, everybody. Look, it's Star Wars Day. Excellent. May the 4th be with you, and I'll see you again on another episode of Voice Copy Break very soon. Bye.